Okay. Hello, everyone. Nice to be here on another Friday. My name is Dr. Garrett Smith, also known as the Nutrition Detective around these YouTube parts, and been an interesting week. Lots of things cooking in the oven for you guys from my end. Anyway, so if you're not familiar with what we do here on the live stream, I tend to go through topics that we have all been lied to about in nutrition and health. If you wonder why everyone is so sick and why most people, even the health nuts, you ever notice maybe this was you, maybe this is your friends, your family, your loved ones. They do all these healthy things. Supposedly, maybe they get better for a little bit, but then they just crumble down again. They don't seem to get better permanently. Well, that's because they're still doing the wrong things. We've been lied to on both sides, the alternative side and the conventional side. So one of the things that we've been lied to the most about is hormones and what things have an effect on them and what effect they have. Seen lots of people on Twitter pushing vitamin A for testosterone, and then there's the fraudsters out there claiming that copper toxicity doesn't exist and that only copper deficiency exists, and that this BS called bioavailable copper is the solution to all the world's problems. And yet I get these people when they fall apart on these methods. I'll probably get, if the pushers of these things are able to swallow their pride one day and realize why their health went totally downhill, if they're actually even doing what they say to do. Because never forget, just because a health guru claims to be, I don't know, let's say vegan, doesn't mean they're actually vegan in practice. Lying is the modus operandi of the day for most health gurus, because they build, like, I don't know, let's say there's a certain MD who pushes carnivore, who over the last couple years drastically reduced his organ meat consumption. Yet he still sells them. And there's another YouTuber who used to push organ meats and sells organ meat supplements, and yet now has come out saying that vitamin A toxicity is legit. Yet he still sells high vitamin A organ meat supplements. These people, they have made their money. They have created a business selling poison, and they are realizing that they have poisoned themselves, yet they will not give up their money stream. Call it greed, call it a lack of ethics, whatever it is. I've had to tell my clients, when I realized that vitamin D supplements were poisons, did I keep selling it? Did I shut my mouth and just hope it would all blow over? No, I told every single one of them that when they came back to my office, you need to get off of this. What happened when I used to supplement vitamin A to people based on the garbage information that I learned in the hair analysis world? Hair analysis, I love hair analysis, don't get me wrong. The way people are taught to do it is complete garbage. I reverse engineered it all the way back up from what I had learned. And now I do things very differently. But in the hair analysis world, they give vitamin A to everybody. And that's what I was taught. And when I came across Grant Genereux's work, I got about halfway through his first book, and I sat back in my chair and I said, oh my goodness. This answers, as many of you who are here, maybe when you saw me, maybe when you read Grant's book, maybe when you came across it somewhere else on the internet, you saw this information and you went, oh my gosh, this explains like everything, right? Many of you had that realization. I did too. I was halfway through Grant's first book and I sat back in my chair and I said, I have to change everything. And I did. And what did I do? I stopped selling vitamin A. I started telling people, this is a poison. You need to get off of this. And now I've kind of become the world expert in vitamin A toxicity and detoxification. So that's the kind of ethical approach, truthful approach, not greedy approach that I do, that it seems that other people are too afraid to do because it would destroy everyone's vision of them. And yes, did I lose clients and patients when I changed? Yes, because they felt like I had misled them. And yet I'm the only one out there. I'm the messenger. It's like, don't shoot the messenger. I'm out there figuring out that this was bad and I'm changing because of it. I'm not going to keep poisoning you because of my income and my reputation that I have to protect in some way. So anyway, so here we get to talk about testosterone. And if you haven't seen my video, my recent video where I go over my labs, because right, I should be able to show, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying I'm completely fixed. But if you want to go see my labs and how I show how I'm improving, how I'm fixing what's called cholestasis, which is toxic bile in your blood, you can see my bile acids in my blood going down over time. And you can see my vitamin A going down over time. And you can see my testosterone as a 46-year-old man with 2 kids and a small business go up by 300 points-ish. That's not really supposed to happen in your mid-40s. And I had prostate problems in my mid-20s. My dad died of prostate cancer, and now I have no prostate problems as a man in my mid-40s. That's not how it's supposed to go these days, right? Doctors tell you you're just getting older. It's just part of getting older. You just fall apart. If you have a doctor who says that, they're garbage. You should take most of their advice and just throw it in the trash because they're probably really sick too. And they're just going to tell you, you have to be sick because we haven't figured out how to fix it. And maybe they don't realize it. They're still poisoning you. Because they probably are. I mean, if you're going to see a doctor and they're giving you pharmaceuticals, they're still poisoning you. I mean, this should be obvious. So let's get into vitamin A, how vitamin A, the phony vitamin, the most phony of all the vitamins, and the toxic heavy metal called copper. Go and look up copper. Copper heavy metal. Go type that in to the search engine. And you might have heard about heavy metals are bad. Heavy metals are bad. And then you look up copper and it's a heavy metal. And yet people are pushing it on you saying copper toxicity doesn't exist. Only copper deficiency exists. Could you imagine if somebody tried to pull that crap with mercury or lead or cadmium? People would be like, you're crazy. Those are heavy metals. Those are toxic heavy metals. And yet people are pushing copper as the cure to all your ills. Sorry. So let's get into it. Now, I did a thread on Twitter all about vitamin A and testosterone. So if you're not following me on Twitter, well, first of all, let me just say this. If you're here and you like what I do and you want other people to see it, well, you need to help the YouTube algorithms to know that this is a good thing for other people to watch. So if you're in the chat, you can X out of the chat and go like the video. The likes on the video do a lot. And you could also, and make sure to subscribe to the channel so you can see these later. So that helps the algorithm know that you like this. So I'm just going to say that once. And then on any of my social media links that I put up, they're all in the information below, but my Twitter is there. That's where we're going to pull this thread from right now. So I put it in the chat. I put all these in the chat. Someday I'll get a live stream software and I'll end up doing live, where I can show you what I'm looking at on the screen. But for right now, I just do it through YouTube and they don't have that yet. So these links that I'm about to put up are coming from this Twitter thread. So first, we have a study called, so what I'm saying here is that vitamin A, men, destroys your testosterone production. Now, if you don't, men and women similar? But yes, it's like ovaries are like testicles, and other things. There's these analogies, right? It's just the differences in the way we develop based on genetic triggers, right? So, ladies, this same stuff happens to you, but one of the strange things that can happen is like in PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome, is you start seeing women with symptoms of high testosterone and lower estrogen. But the root cause can be the same poisonings. Okay. It's just men are going deeper into less testosterone and more estrogen, and women go the wrong way into more testosterone and less estrogen. It's just the systems are getting messed up. Now, for those of you who understand that the group of evil forces in the world who worship kind of a hermaphroditic kind of bisexual at the same time God, and you would see that they're making men more like women, right? Less testosterone and more estrogen, and they're making women more like men, higher testosterone, less estrogen, and you have the different sexes feeling confused as to which one they actually are, which one they identify with. And I'm going to sit here and show you evidence that they're poisoning us and making us feel this way. Well, then you might understand. So, animal vitamin A damages the Sertoli cells. Okay. Let me show you these. These are cells in the testicles. Oh, I didn't know that this was going to do the Twitter link. I got to do that. Hold on. Here we go. That was the Twitter link, but I want to get you the actual PubMed link. And for those of you who may have been, you may misunderstand. Okay, PubMed. What is PubMed? Here's the first thing to know. People seem to think that, like, since PubMed is paid for by the government, that it's like all government funded studies. This is absolutely not the truth. You need to go out and tell everybody you need to figure this out first. And you need to go out and tell everybody who thinks that PubMed is some like terrible thing of studies that are all corrupt and they're all trying to convince us that it's not, that the wrong things are. No, PubMed, think of a library. Okay, PubMed is an online library of studies and abstracts, and they have some of the full studies too. Not all of them, but they have a lot of the full studies. Does the library publish and produce all the books in it? No. The library just buys books from other people and puts them there so you can check them out. Nowadays, the library might have an agenda and they might not carry all the books you'd like to see, but as far as I can tell, we haven't seen that with PubMed. They're not taking studies off, as an example. So think of PubMed. PubMed.gov is the easiest way to get there. It is a library of study abstracts and some of the full studies. It is not a bunch of studies funded by the government trying to mislead you. So for anybody who like threw PubMed in the trash, you just took away like all your research. Okay. I've been doing all of this work using PubMed. Do you want to know the easiest way to search PubMed is to go on like, I still use DuckDuckGo for this because I know DuckDuckGo has its problems. I know unsavory characters are behind DuckDuckGo. And for research searching purposes, it still works really well. So what you do is you look for the terms you want. Remember, it's best if you're searching for medical stuff or technical stuff to use the medical term for it, not the normal term. Like if you're going to say itching, well, itching doesn't work so well. You use pruritus. So you need to look up the medical terminology for it first. So pruritus is itching, right? As an example. So that's what you would use. Pruritus. And then if you could type in whatever you wanted to look, you could type in vitamin A or retinoid, which is the one of the technical terms for vitamin A, and PubMed. Okay, so you just add PubMed at the end of it, PubMed, and you can search. It really works well to search the PubMed database. Sometimes I think it's better than the PubMed search on PubMed.gov. Now, when you type in PubMed.gov, it will take you to another different website domain. Okay. It will the domain will change. You didn't get taken to another website. It's just PubMed.gov is they also have that domain and it'll take you there. Now, one person, I just want to answer this question because I just saw it since we're talking about this. Surfing says PubMed has many articles claiming coffee has protective effects on the liver, so I don't know what to think anymore. This is true. They also have many positive articles on, let's say, Accutane. They'll say Accutane is basically good for you. It helps this and this and this. And Accutane is like one of the most absolutely poisonous drugs out there. This is what I do. Okay. I was gifted by God, in my opinion, for pattern recognition and being able to recognize trends and being able to watch myself and other people long term to test these things, to watch these things, to question everything while being able to, at eventually having to take a stand. Because see, right, somebody could be like, well, I don't know, there's all these studies that are not good on coffee, and then there's all these studies that are good on coffee. I don't know what to do. There's that saying of have an open mind, but not so open that all your brains fall out, right? This is what I'm good at. And I will look at all of it, and you want, so like I was telling you the story earlier about when I figured out vitamin A was toxic in my practice. I was doing mostly hair analysis, and I was using vitamin A on people, and I was getting people better. But after a while, after several years typically of people being with me, they would start to say, yeah, doc, my energy's just not so good. It's my energy seems to be slipping. Do you know what's going on? Or they'd say, I'm starting to notice a little hair fall. Do you know what's going on? And I was sitting there going, I said, well, let's try this. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's try these other things. And they'd say maybe it helped a bit for a while, and then it would kind of fade off. And I was so in my mind, because was I sitting there thinking, like so many practitioners do, these are half-ass, half-rate practitioners. They'll blame the client. You're not doing enough. You must be telling me a lie. You say you're doing it and you're not. And I personally, maybe they are, but I don't believe that at the start, because that's not a good place to come from, where I'm questioning if they're actually doing what I'm saying. You know, some of you out there have probably been fired by doctors because they say you absolutely cannot be doing what I'm saying if you're not getting better. And the client's like, or patient's like, I totally am. I'm doing it. I'm doing it all day long, every day. And the doctor's like, nope, you're not doing it. I can't help you anymore. Go find somebody else. Many of you have been fired from practitioners because they don't think you're doing what they want you to do, or you can't take the supplements that they're telling you to take. And they're like, if you can't take it, well, I can't help you. Weak sauce, right? So I thought when I started seeing those people getting those long-term, this is why vitamin A toxicity, folks, is so sneaky, because it can take years. So if you've been doing something for years, right? If you take a supplement, like let's say somebody has really, really, really bad copper toxicity, and they take a zinc pill, and it kicks out a bunch of copper into their bloodstream, and they feel awful immediately, right? That's easy to feel. That's easy. Like it's that day or it's the next day. That's easy to connect. Vitamin A toxicity is really, really, really hard to connect, because it can take months to years to become toxic. It can happen very quickly, but it can also, if you do the moderate to low dosing, it can take years. So I didn't catch it because I was taking it. I didn't notice anything immediate. Clients were taking it. They noticed improvements at the start, which is how poisons fool you. And then over time, things slowly got worse. And that's when I was reading Grant's book and I started to put together the long-term stuff of what vitamin A did. I was like, this is the missing piece. This is what I've been missing. This is a slow poisoning. And so I realized that. And now this is where it's so hard for people, because they're like, I eat liver and I feel like a buzz. And I'm like, that's a drug effect. That's not like something magically delicious happening in your body. That is a drug effect. Like about coffee, right? Anybody who watches long-term coffee consumers, people who drink a lot of coffee every day, they look worse and worse and worse every year, and they get more and more tired, and they cannot function without coffee. They're a junkie. Does that sound healthy? Does anything that makes people addicted to it, where they get withdrawals from it, do we assume that that's a healthy thing? You should not. If people start going, well, if I don't eat vitamin A, I start to feel worse. And you're like, well, okay. Even our government has said they stopped requiring companies to label vitamin A on food labels. You may still find vitamin A on food labels, but it's not required anymore. Why did they do that? Because they said vitamin A deficiency is extremely rare in the US. Extremely rare. So if I'm here saying vitamin A toxicity is everywhere, and the government's saying deficiency is extremely rare, who do you think might be more right? Or are they both pointing in the same direction? Deficiency is extremely rare. And I'm saying toxicity. There's the study on cadavers where they did biopsies of the livers, and they showed that 1/3 of the American cadavers that they studied, 27 cadavers, 9 of them had gold standard diagnosable vitamin A toxicity in their liver. Okay. 40% of Caucasian people in Singapore, I think it was in the 80s or the 70s, 40% of the Caucasian people in Singapore had vitamin A toxicity diagnosable by liver biopsy. Back in the 60s, 50% of certain African countries, cadavers from certain African countries, 50% of them showed vitamin A toxicity in their liver. So, Sertoli cells. Let's get back into that. Sertoli cells. Retinol supplementation. Retinol. Ooh, the magical one. This is so good for people. Retinol supplementation induces oxidative stress and modulates antioxidant enzyme activities in rat Sertoli cells. Okay. Let me go into this a little deeper. So here we go. Hold on, I got to find the part where it. So they don't want to say, there's so many of these studies where they don't want to say that it directly damaged it. Oh, here's the first line of the abstract, though. Recent intervention studies revealed that supplementation with retinoids resulted in a higher incidence of lung cancer. I'm not going to look up that paper, but retinoids, that's animal vitamin A, for those of you who love to drink your milk and eat your egg yolks and eat your liver and do the animal sources of, cod liver oil. Don't forget cod liver oil, all you protocol people and WAPFers. Retinoids resulted in a higher incidence of lung cancer. Recently, the causal mechanism has begun to be clarified. Causal mechanism. Vitamin A increasing lung cancer. Causal, that means it's a cause. We report here that retinol caused cellular oxidative stress and modulated superoxide dismutase catalase and glutathione peroxidase activities. Retinol significantly increased T-bars. That's a marker of, I believe that is related to fatty acid oxidation, if I recall correctly off the top of my head. I'm not. Conjugated dyings and hydroperoxide initiated chemoluminescence in cultured Sertoli cells. But Dr. Smith, isn't vitamin A an antioxidant? Well, retinol caused cellular oxidative stress. Retinol caused cellular oxidative stress, damaging cells, but everybody says it's an antioxidant. Maybe you've been lied to. Maybe we don't have to worry about whether it's an antioxidant or a pro-oxidant. Maybe we just need to know that it damages the cells of your testicles, guys. Okay. Sertoli cells. So let's go into the next one. Where is it? Sertoli cells. Here we go. All trans retinoic acid induces free radical generation. Oh, wait, is this the right one? Yeah. This is just different. This is just a different form of vitamin A. Right? It sounded like exactly the same title. That's why I was getting confused. Here we go. All trans retinoic acid induces free radical generation and modulate antioxidant enzyme activities in rat Sertoli cells. Okay. Um, Again, Sertoli cells, these are the ones that make testosterone. Let me find. Here we go. Where are we going? So retinoic acid, let's go into all trans retinoic acid. All trans retinoic acid in the research is typically when they just say retinoic acid and they don't put anything in front of it, they mean all trans retinoic acid. All trans retinoic acid is sold to you as Retin-A, especially ladies. If you're putting this garbage on your face, tretinoin or Retin-A, you're putting all trans retinoin on your face. You are absorbing it into your bloodstream. It is damaging your liver. Your skin may look great, and you're going to probably give yourself autoimmune disease if you haven't already. And you're going to ruin your liver and you're going to get more health problems. Things can make you look great on the outside, right? While they destroy you inside. It's like, don't judge a book by its cover. Well, don't judge your face treatments that are retinol or retinoic acids. My face looks great, but now I've got 3 autoimmune conditions. Well, here we go. Sertoli cells isolated from 15-day-old Wistar rats were previously cultured for 48 hours, then treated with retinoic acid for 24 hours. Retinoic acid at high doses increased T-bars level, there it is again, oxidative damage, and induced a decrease in cell viability. Induced a decrease in cell viability. I'm pretty sure shorthand that means it was causing early cell death. They were trying to say it in a nice way because they hate to speak badly about it. Well, let me back up. All trans retinoic acid is what they call active vitamin A. For those protocol people who love to say that you need vitamin A to make ceruloplasmin, the one study they base it on was a study using all trans retinoic acid cultured on cells. It's not an in vivo study. It's an in vitro study. It's a cell study, a petri dish study. And they will say that you need vitamin A to do this. And I'm saying this is Retin-A. Are you actually trying to tell me that Retin-A is a vitamin? Because it's the exact same chemical structure. So here, let me show you how they're trying to say it in a nice way. It induced a decrease in cell viability. And then a sentence later, they say retinoic acid also did, they were talking about at low doses, sorry, let me read this. At low doses, retinoic acid did not increase T-bars level. Retinoic acid also did not increase cell death at these doses. So first they say retinoic acid at a high dose induced a decrease in cell viability. And then a couple sentences later, they say retinoic acid also did not increase cell death at these doses. So do you see how they said it nicely? Where they said it induced a decrease in cell viability. And then later, when they're trying to say something positive about it, at low doses, they're like, it did not increase cell death. They've been lying to us and covering this stuff up for so long. Sertoli cells. Men, you want your Sertoli cells. Okay? So now let's go into the real world. Let's go into this paper. What happens in real people? I don't care that much about cell studies. Cell studies they're something, but that's actually how I think they've been hiding things from us. So what happens in real people? Well, here's the paper. Estradiol to testosterone ratio, serum retinol binding protein 4, and insulin resistance in overweight and obese Egyptian men. Well, let me find this on my forum. I summarize stuff better there. Oh, wait, I thought I had that. Yeah, there it is. There's the women one. So we've got one of these studies that's very similar in women and men. So I have these both here. Okay. in this paper, I'm just going to summarize it. You can go read the paper if you want. But here's what the study found. They looked at retinol binding protein 4 levels, which is a binding protein that protects you from retinol. The people who don't understand vitamin A toxicity will try to say retinol binding protein, it carries vitamin A around your system and it delivers it so kindly to the tissues that need it. And I'm going to say that the body generally makes most of its binding proteins to stick to things to protect you from them. We make cellular retinoic acid binding protein, and we make retinoic binding protein. We make multiple of them. So now, why would your body make retinol binding protein? This is a very important thing to know. Would your body make retinol binding protein if there was no retinol around? No. Why waste resources? So if there is retinol binding protein around, there was retinol in the system, whether it's got it bound up or whether it's come off of it and now you just have the retinol binding protein. So retinol binding protein is evidence that retinol was there. Okay. And some places in the research use retinol binding protein, and they're saying retinol binding protein 4, which means what? There's also 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Why is the body making so many of these? So sometimes they'll measure retinol binding protein as a surrogate test, so a test they can replace serum retinol with. They could measure retinol binding protein or serum retinol. I don't measure retinol binding protein. I like serum retinol, but it's still not very useful to tell you if you have vitamin A toxicity because we want to know what's in the liver, and you're not going to get that information unless you do a liver biopsy, and I'm not going to have people go do a liver biopsy just for this. You can just assume you're vitamin A toxic if you're not well. Okay, so what happened in men who had higher retinol binding protein 4 levels? They had a higher body mass index, BMI, right? So they had a higher body weights relative to their height. So generally we can assume that these were fatter men, okay? Here we get to confirm it. Higher retinol binding protein levels went along with a higher waist circumference. Well, where do men get fat? Why are men the apple shape? Because we get fat in our midsection, okay? They had lower testosterone levels. They had higher estrogen levels. They had higher levels of estrogen relative to the lower testosterone levels. They called it the higher E2 to T level, estrogen to testosterone ratio. They had a higher HOMA-IR, HOMA-IR, as in this is a test that shows insulin resistance, such as diabetes, metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance. They're all linked. That's how they're measuring your insulin resistance. More vitamin A in their blood, higher insulin resistance, more blood sugar problems. Okay? I have a whole video on my channel linking vitamin A directly to obesity. This is one of the studies that I use there, but we also see lower testosterone levels and higher estrogen levels. Okay, some people might say, well, that's a one-off study. Do you have anything else to back that up? Oh, let's look in women now. So here's the paper. Estradiol testosterone ratio, serum retinol binding protein 4, and insulin. Wait, this is not the right one. Hold on. I looked at, that's the men one again. Sorry. Let me get this one. Keeping track of all these tabs can be hard. Okay. Retinol binding protein 4 is elevated and is associated with free testosterone and TSH in postmenopausal women. So what did we get out of this paper? Here's the quote. Postmenopausal women had statistically significantly higher retinol binding protein 4 levels when compared to premenopausal women. Retinol binding protein 4 levels were negatively associated with free testosterone and positively associated with thyroid stimulating hormone in postmenopausal women. In premenopausal women, retinol binding protein 4 was positively associated with body mass index. So let me translate that for you. First one, postmenopausal women had statistically significantly higher retinol binding protein 4 levels when compared with premenopausal women. Okay. So let me just ask a question first. Do we generally associate postmenopausal women as being sicker or healthier than premenopausal women? Generally, a lot of women go through a lot of suffering through menopause and after menopause, right? So if we can make that assumption, we could also say they're saying postmenopausal women had higher retinol binding protein 4 levels, a surrogate marker of vitamin A in their blood, when compared to premenopausal women. What also did postmenopausal women stop doing? They stopped menstruating. What might be one way the body can get rid of vitamin A? Menstruation. So if you lose that detox route, you start losing you lose one of your abilities to get rid of lots of poisons, ladies. Now, the other thing that we see is vitamin A is a poison of accumulation. You accumulate it in your body as you get older, right? It's just more time, more exposure. You accumulate more. So they're saying postmenopausal women had more vitamin A floating around in their blood than premenopausal women. So we can kind of think of the health of postmenopausal women, and we can think of the disease of accumulation, right? They're accumulating it over time. For those people who think that vitamin A is good for people, shouldn't postmenopausal women, if they have higher serum retinol, be healthier than premenopausal? But real world observation would say they're not in general. Everything seems to line up with them accumulating vitamin A to toxic levels. Okay, let's keep going. Retinol binding protein 4 levels were negatively associated with free testosterone. So a negative association would mean as retinol binding protein 4 levels go up, testosterone goes down. Isn't that what the men's study just said? And if retinol binding protein 4 levels went down, free testosterone would go up in these ladies. Isn't that what I'm saying? Okay. And retinol binding protein 4 levels were positively associated with thyroid stimulating hormone TSH in postmenopausal women. So for those of you who understand, a higher TSH means your thyroid is not functioning as well as it should in general. It means your brain, your pituitary is having to send more of a signal to your thyroid because your thyroid's not making enough thyroid hormone. So it sends TSH down to trigger your thyroid to make more thyroid hormone because it's not doing its job as well as it needs to, right? It's like you have to push down on the gas to drive faster, right? Let's say you were driving with the emergency brake on, you have to push the gas down a lot further. That's what it's saying the body's having to do. The more vitamin A that's in there, the higher the TSH goes, right? The more the emergency brake is on, the harder you have to push down the gas pedal. It doesn't mean it's a good thing. It means that's what you have to do if you want to drive a certain speed, like have certain thyroid hormone levels, okay? So, worse thyroid function with more vitamin A. In premenopausal women, retinol binding protein 4 was positively associated with body mass index. The more retinol binding protein 4 in their blood, the fatter they were. Weird that they found, and these were, I believe, South Korean women. Let me just double check. Pretty sure. Well, I had the whole study somewhere, but I'm pretty sure that this was South Korean women. So we have Egyptian men and South Korean women. Exactly the same patterns. Fatter, lower testosterone, higher estrogen. In real people. Okay, let's keep going. So, where is it? Yeah, okay. So that's the Twitter thread. Let me get rid of these. Okay. Now let's go into a little bit of copper since we're here. Where are we going? So copper is another thing. So what I'm going to tell you, folks, it's funny, the same people pushing vitamin A are often the same people pushing bioavailable copper. And I'm going to tell you that I find these toxicities, copper toxicity and vitamin A toxicity, together in the same people. Like it's almost like one causes the other. And if we were to look at it, if we were to believe that these are toxins and that the body tries to get rid of them in the bile, and if you understand the connection between toxic bile in the blood containing toxins the liver stores, like copper and vitamin A, and it's leaking into the blood, then we see more vitamin A and more copper in the blood, causing more problems, just like we just saw lower testosterone, higher estrogen, fatter people, higher TSH when there was more vitamin A around. So anyway, as an example of how this can affect hormonal stuff or how hormones affect this stuff, it's in the birth control pills, the oral contraceptive birth control pills video on this channel. It has been known since 1975 that birth control pills cause liver injury or cholestasis, cholestatic liver injury, and they increase vitamin A and copper in your blood. So raising vitamin A and copper in your blood, and many of you ladies out there, you may have noticed most women who take birth control gain weight afterwards that they can never seem to get rid of. Well, until they start working with me to undo the damage. But what does birth control do? What has been shown in the blood of people taking birth control, whether it's high dose or low dose? Stop with that nonsense. It's all poison. They have higher vitamin A and higher copper levels in their blood, and they're infertile. Weird. And we also know that the heavier a woman is, the more likely it is she has fertility problems. Vitamin A connected to obesity. I have that video. They use copper IUDs to induce infertility. So maybe vitamin A and copper don't do nice things for the hormone system. See where we're going with all this? Now, let's go into some studies on copper. Now, these I just pulled up this morning. There's probably more. I could find them. Here's a paper called Copper and the Estradiol Receptor. Here we go. Copper is an essential element in living organisms, and it appears to be involved in estrogen action. Divalent copper was found to induce at 37 degrees Celsius a several-fold increase, going up by multiple times is what that means, in estradiol binding to the receptors in rat uterine cytosols. Divalent copper was found to induce at 37 degrees Celsius a several-fold increase in estradiol binding to the receptors in rat uterine cytosols. That means that even if you had the same amount of copper, right, at the right temperature, copper would bind to estrogen. I mean, it's copper binding to estrogen receptors. It's making your estrogen more powerful, is really what they're saying. And I'm sitting here telling you that copper is estrogenic. Zinc is actually pro-testosterone. And yet there's people out there, protocol people, telling you to deathly avoid zinc supplements and eat more copper foods. Sounds like it's going to be pretty estrogenic to me. Okay, moving on. Serum, here's the next paper, serum copper elevation from estrogen effect. Wait, so they work, is it one helps the other? Serum copper elevation from estrogen effect, masquerading as fungicide toxicity. Here we go, in the discussion. Serum levels, this is okay. The patient's elevations in serum copper were probably unrelated to her chemical exposure to copper naphthenate. Serum levels of copper were falsely elevated as a result of concomitant together estrogen use and were returned to normal when estrogen was discontinued. So first of all, they're saying that this woman, let's go into this case report. A previously healthy supposedly. Like modern medicine can tell when somebody's healthy, right? A previously healthy 44-year-old Caucasian female was referred for toxicology consultation due to persistently elevated serum copper levels following copper naphthenate applied in her home. Wait, they put a fungicide in her house that has copper in it. Wait, are you saying copper kills things? Are you saying copper's toxic to living creatures, living things? Fungicides, fungus, they're going to kill fungus with copper. Okay. So it has a death-inducing effect. Okay, cool. She had initial nausea, nasal congestion, and headache from the fumes, but then remained asymptomatic. Okay. Despite this and no further exposure, even though she had symptoms when she first got exposed, her serum copper remained elevated by 30% above normal over 9 months, peaking at 2,301 micrograms per liter. I think that's about 230.1. No, is that? Yeah, per deciliter. Yes, it's about 230.1. So for those of you who have tested with me, we tend to use micrograms per deciliter. So that's 230.1. I like people to be between 75 and 90. Oh, here we go. Review of the literature confirmed that oral contraceptive use will routinely elevate serum copper levels to the extent noted in this case. Oh, wait. Her red blood cell copper level was normal. Cessation of the oral contraceptive for 2 months returned the serum copper levels to normal. Her red blood cell copper level was normal. Dr. Smith, why do you not test red blood cell levels of copper and zinc? Because I think they're garbage. They just said her copper level was like twice as high as the upper end. Yet her red blood cell copper level was normal. How could that be? Why do you not test red blood cell magnesium, Dr. Smith? Because I think it's garbage. But it's the best. This blogger said so. Well, go follow the blogger then. See how far that gets you. Okay? So, they even say here in the literature, review of the literature shows that birth control pills will raise copper higher than normal. Okay, this woman was exposed to a copper-containing toxin that could likely cause liver injury, aka cholestasis, which is when toxic bile that contains copper is leaked into the blood. Do you think these two could work together? See, the case study, the MDs in the case study, they have to pick one thing. It can only be one thing that causes the problem. No, it can be multiple things working together synergistically to cause the problem. They both cause liver injury, birth control pills, and fungicides, especially if they contain copper. And they say here at the very start, serum copper levels may be elevated by estrogen. Gosh, estrogen and copper working together. Let's see what else we can find. Let's see. That's a cell study. We're going to skip that one. Okay, let's move on to my other study that I did. So, for those people who like out there, they're doing a revolution in copper, supposedly. Here we go. High copper levels in follicular fluid affect follicle development in polycystic ovary syndrome patients. Population-based and in vitro studies. Copper toxicity doesn't exist. Here we go. First line. Although the adverse effects of copper overexposure on the liver, kidney, spleen, and intestinal organs are well known. information about the impact of copper toxicity on human reproduction is limited. So they're looking at polycystic ovary syndrome, right? Here's one thing to think about. Estrogen generally causes tissue growth. That's why they're so concerned about estrogen with like breast cancers. Estrogen causes tissue growth, particularly in the female reproductive organs. So ladies, if you're thinking about fibroids, if you're thinking about cysts, if you're thinking about PCOS, if you're thinking about uterine cancer, breast cancer, what estrogen causes these tissues to grow. We already went over how copper increases the binding to the estrogen receptor. And they're saying if you take estrogen, they start to see increased copper. Do these things sound like a bad thing together? Yes. Here we go. Our results showed that the trace element profile in follicular fluid was obviously altered in PCOS patients. Copper concentrations were significantly higher in the PCOS group than in the other two groups. Our results indicated that increased copper levels in follicular fluid could affect follicle development in PCOS patients. And the mechanism may be related to copper-induced abnormalities in steroidogenesis, creating hormones, the manufacture of hormones, for better or worse. Copper is estrogenic. Let me see. I don't have a lot on my research forum about copper. And then you have all these people out there, eat liver. It's super high in vitamin A and copper. Go ahead. Come back, find me when you're done. When it doesn't work out. I'll be here. Using zinc and molybdenum. Oh, are those things found in the keystone minerals that I sell at nutritiondetective.com? Here, let me give you a link just in case you want to try them out. Now, if you're super copper toxic, you may not feel good when you first take zinc or molybdenum, or possibly even selenium. This does not mean that these things are bad for you. It means you're really toxic, and maybe you've already figured this out. What do I do? How do I? There's the link for that. What do I do to fix this? Well, I test people for both copper and zinc on blood and hair testing. I look at it from two angles. The people who think, so here's the funny thing in hair analysis world, they like to talk about hidden copper toxicity. And they've made it so that basically everybody who ever does a hair test, pretty much, they've got so many markers of hidden copper toxicity that pretty much everybody who ever takes a hair test, they're going to say, well, these markers show that you could have hidden copper toxicity, even though they might have what looks like low copper on their hair test. And I'm like, okay, why are you using a test that can't show you if there's copper toxicity or not? So when I started learning William Walsh's work, and he was big on copper toxicity as a cause of, schizophrenia and all sorts of mental problems. He was an Australian guy. And I started learning about his blood testing of copper and zinc. And I incorporated it, and I tested blood. It's amazing. You start testing blood and you see copper toxicity all the freaking time. But all the hair testing people don't get to see it. Using only hair testing for copper and zinc is not that great. Can you find copper toxicity on hair testing? Yes, sometimes. What if you have both tools at your disposal? That's what I do. So if you are interested in working with me on that, here's that link to my website. You can always email Julie at admin@nutritiondetective.com if you have questions about how that all works. But when we get to see copper, let me give you an example of how I work. Let me give you an example. I was working with a woman, and she had definite copper toxicity. I think it was on both hair test and blood test. And she had zinc deficiency significantly. Like she was at a 12. I wanted her at least at an 18. She tried taking a zinc pill. She didn't feel good. It was too much. It was 15 milligrams, which is not a big zinc pill. She didn't feel good. And so being that I give support to my people, when you buy a package with me, a testing and consultation package to work with me, we do the consult, but I also give you the opportunity for what we call office hours, which is support over time. 2 meetings a week, 2 Zoom meetings, it's small group meetings, but I'm there troubleshooting for people. And we started going over. I think in the first visit we went over, she's going to have to dose really low because she'd already experimented with zinc. I said, you're going to need to start with like a liquid zinc picolinate, very slow. And she started on it and she felt better at very low doses. Like she was taking less than 6 milligrams of zinc a day, because that was what she tolerated based on the information I gave her as to how to experiment and find out what the best dose for her is. The tests told me she was low. I said, we need to figure out what the right dose is for you. So she's taking less than 6 milligrams. That's less than almost any pill on the market that you could buy. In 6 months, we took her hair test zinc up by 6 points from a 12 to an 18. Those of you in hair analysis know that that's a good increase. We also took her blood zinc up by almost 20 points, almost into my good range, from 6 milligrams. And if she took more than 6 milligrams, she felt copper toxicity symptoms. But if she took less or the right amount for her, she didn't. You ever have doctors respect your individual needs that much and tell you that if something makes you feel bad, don't do it or do less or experiment to find out what your dose is so you can feel good? So we can fix your problem based on what your needs are? There are some people who need very, very little zinc. How do you know if you need little zinc or you need a lot? I need a lot. I need a lot of zinc to keep up. There's no way I'd have to eat like 4 pounds of beef a day to keep my zinc levels up. I don't want to do that. And the food is getting more and more deficient every day. So I could try to struggle and insist on doing it all through food, or I could use focused approaches with supplements. Zinc being the more, so ladies, you need to not be afraid of zinc, because think of zinc is more masculine, and it's non-conductive. Copper is more feminine and is extremely conductive. That's why we make wires in our walls out of it. Okay. You know what happens when people get too much copper? They tend to feel wired and anxious and a lot of bad activity going on in their brain. They have trouble falling asleep, all sorts of these palpitations. They're too electric or conductive. Gosh, they tend to also have a zinc deficiency, and they get too estrogenic. What is zinc? Well, zinc is the counter to that. Zinc is not conductive. Zinc and copper can take up the same spots in the cell. So if you have too many conductive things, that's taking over the non-conductive things. Oh, so how do we fix this? We put in the non-conductive stuff, the masculine stuff, and we push out the toxic, estrogenic copper stuff. It's just math. But I had a woman, I think I've said this before here, I had a woman who she could only take 1 milligram of zinc, but it made her feel so much better. And if she took 2 milligrams of zinc at back then, it was too much. Did I tell her you have to get up to 30 milligrams of zinc a day? No, that's idiocy. That's stupid. There's no you have to. And she did the 1 milligram and she felt so much better. And over time, she was able to go up to 2 milligrams. And she's still improving to this day. She was one of my Accutane victims, my Accutane survivors. And she did great. She listened. She was patient. Many people don't have the patience that this woman did. Sadly, Accutane folks, I want to help you, but Accutane people have not had the patience to do this. It doesn't matter how long you took Accutane or how long you took birth control pills for. I have a woman who I heard about. I don't think she came to work in the program. She took one Accutane pill and got neuropathy. One pill. One pill. People, I'm going to use this little analogy, like one bullet can kill a person. But depending upon if they get hit by 13 bullets, if they're all in okay spots, they don't die. They can live just fine. If you get hit in the right spot by a bullet, you're dead. If you take the wrong pill for you, it can ruin your liver. One pill. That's why if you're just kind of like, oh, I'm just going to take this antibiotic for this little what's the term? Procedure that it's just the word's not coming to me. Procedure that you're choosing to do. Like, let's say you're going to get a little bit of, it's just a little plastic surgery, and the doctor's going to give me this antibiotic for a week. Oh, could that antibiotic ruin your liver and ruin your life after that? Sure, it happens all the time. Heard of getting floxed? Fluoroquinolones just ruining people's lives with a short course? Elective procedure. Thank you, Nathan. Elective procedure. It just wasn't coming to my brain. But so you could go and be doing something very, very simple and ruin your gut biome, ruin your liver, start spitting toxic bile back into your blood, and then your health goes downhill, right? Maybe you were okay before that. You go and you get this little procedure, and now your health forever. Like a lot of women, they take birth control pills, and it ruins them for life until hopefully they find me and we fix it. I have women who are like, I only took birth control for a week because I couldn't handle it. It was making me crazy. Gosh, what's it raising in your blood again? Oh, vitamin A and copper. So these things are all connected, folks. The epidemics you see out there of low testosterone, copper toxicity, vitamin A toxicity, all these diseases, diabetes. I just went over, I've gone over before how high carotenoids in the blood are associated with hypothyroidism and diabetes. This is in the research. Diabetics almost always have high carotenoids in their blood. Almost always. And I just went over research with you showing that the more vitamin A that people had in their blood, carotenoids are plant vitamin A, okay? Retinoids are considered animal vitamin A. The more retinol people had in their blood, the worse their insulin resistance, which is connected to diabetes and metabolic syndrome and all this stuff. Is diabetes associated with higher body fat generally? Type 2, yes. Let me just go. Let's see if we can find anything. Let's just do this just to connect it all. Let's do copper, diabetes, PubMed. Well, here we go. Here's a paper, diabetes and Alzheimer's disease. Can elevated free copper predict the risk of disease? Conclusion, these results suggest the involvement of catalytically reactive copper-2 and glucose dysregulation in oxidative stress reactions, leading to tissue damage in both conditions. Let's go back up to the results. Type 2 diabetic subjects had significantly higher non-ceruloplasmin copper levels than controls. And type 1 diabetic subjects after adjusting for age, sex, and body mass index. Higher copper. And then the bioavailable copper people will be like, but that's toxic copper, not bioavailable copper, and that you need more ceruloplasmin and all this stuff. And then I already showed in other live streams how more vitamin A showed lower ceruloplasmin in chickens. That's a better live animal study than anything they propose. They say they use a retinoic acid cell study. Their entire theory is based on a cell study using synthetic, the very thing that they say is not good for you, synthetic vitamin A, as in tretinoin, Retin-A. The whole ceruloplasmin theory is based on garbage science, okay? But then when we get the chickens and they give some of the chickens a low vitamin A diet, guess which chickens had the highest ceruloplasmin? Oh, the ones they gave a low vitamin A diet to. Here's another paper. Plasma zinc and copper in diabetes mellitus. Did I post that link? I did. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. Here we go. We found that there is an elevation of serum zinc, copper, and ceruloplasmin in the diabetic group that is statistically significant. Let's parse that out a little bit. Not going to get too many questions today. Sorry, folks. So wait, they have elevated serum zinc and copper and ceruloplasmin in the diabetic group. Wait, the diabetic people had more ceruloplasmin and they have a disease? Gosh, protocol people, please explain. Please explain how they have diabetes and they have higher serum copper and higher ceruloplasmin. Shouldn't they be doing great? Why is zinc elevated? Because the body is dumping zinc into the blood to protect them from the copper, because zinc is an antagonist to copper and your body is protecting you from it. Why is ceruloplasmin higher? Because you have excess copper in the blood and your body is trying to protect you from it. Oh, here they say the increase of plasma zinc can reflect a deficient storage or a chronic hypersecretion of insulin in hyperglycemic patients. So they're saying that there's a reason for the high zinc in the blood. A deficient storage, could that also mean like the body is kicking zinc out of its storage to protect you against copper in the blood? You can explain these things multiple ways. Or a chronic hypersecretion of insulin in hyperglycemic patients, like, I don't know, maybe caused by copper and vitamin A, being that vitamin A reduces insulin or increases insulin resistance, reduces insulin sensitivity. And I'm telling you that vitamin A and copper go together in terms of causing problems in people. I hope this all makes sense because it all matches up. It's only when you're listening to shysters on the internet that it doesn't. And if you look around, is what we're doing, is what the general public is doing working? No, they're being poisoned and they're mineral deficient in very specific minerals, almost all of which are anti-copper and anti-vitamin A. You think they started using copper water pipes for your benefit? Do you think they started fortifying vitamin A in foods for your benefit? Do you think they pushed eating a rainbow for your benefit? Do you think they started pushing the eating liver on the other side as a benefit? Do you think cod liver oil is a benefit? Eating a fatty extract of, where do you get fatty liver? Fatty liver is a toxic liver. Where does cod liver oil come from? The fat of the liver. Maybe you should watch the cod liver oil is a poison video on this channel and see all the poisons that have been found in cod liver oil and all the problems it's caused. The first thing to realize is we have been purposely and systematically poisoned. That's the first thing you have to realize. Once you get over that, like the 5 stages of grief, and you start going, oh my gosh, everything I've been taught on both sides has been complete BS. Then you wake up, and then all the stuff I'm showing you starts to make a whole lot more sense. I'm going to try to get through a couple questions here, and I got 10 minutes to go through questions, so I'm going to do these fast. Van Morris asked, cherry angioma as a sign of an unhealthy liver or a benign non-issue? It is a sign of an unhealthy liver. Yes. Yes. Okay, moving on. Matt Morris asks, best approach for detoxing copper. Oh boy. Reduce your vitamin A intake. Well, first join the Love Your Liver program, because that's what we do. And then if you want to go to the next level, because the Love Your Liver program is the do-it-yourself thing by itself. That is what is out there for diet and avoiding poisons and getting general advice on putting the right things back in. That's what the Love Your Liver program is. That's members.nutritiondetective.com. Okay. The main website is nutritiondetective.com. If you want to go to the Love Your Liver program, that's members.nutritiondetective.com. What do we need to do? We need to put in the right amount of copper antagonists like zinc, like selenium, like molybdenum. People can try to do this on their own. They can guess and not test and hope they're doing it right. Lots of people do that. Or you can test with me, where we do hair testing and blood testing, and then you get the follow-ups with me, because a lot of health is really the follow-up, folks. It's not just you go to the doctor and the doctor says, do this. And then you have to, get nickel and dimed for follow-ups. Because then you start going, well, do I really need a follow-up? I don't have the time. I don't know. And I know, because I would do it myself. I'm not saying anybody's wrong for doing it. You're like, do I really need the follow-up, or can I just try to fix it on my own or whatever? Well, we include the follow-ups as part of it. So we can tweak and get the dose right. Like the woman I was saying was the 6 milligrams of zinc. She listened in her first consult, and then she started experimenting, and then she came to the follow-ups, and we were tweaking it. And I'm sitting there telling her, it's okay that you're only, I'm consoling her. I'm comforting her and saying, it's okay that you're only on 6. Because then we did our follow-up test, and it was like, your zinc is like, can most people get away with only 6 milligrams of zinc? No. Can she? Yes. Do you know what you are? You have no idea unless you test, and you have somebody who knows what they're doing to help you. Now, for those of you who are interested in learning what I do, we're going to be doing seminars in the future where I'm going to be teaching people, especially practitioners, how to do this. But that's not out yet. So don't go harassing Julie or myself about when it's going to happen, because I got lots of irons in the fire. But anyway, we take the right amount of zinc. We take the right amount of molybdenum. We take the right amount of selenium. We avoid things like chocolate. Folks, if you're addicted to chocolate or you eat it very regularly, you're copper toxic, guaranteed. That's why you're addicted to. You get addicted to toxic things. We don't get addicted to healthy things. Like, I'm not addicted to red meat. I love it. I like to eat it. But if I had to eat chicken for a week, I'm not going to be like, Jones, and I need some red meat. That doesn't happen. It's not like people without their coffee were like, oh my God, I need coffee. I can't function without coffee. Or the people who, like, if they don't have their red wine at night to calm down. People don't get addicted to healthy things. Like, do people need protein to live? Yes. So needing protein is not an addiction. You need protein to live. Do you need chocolate to live? Well, if you say you do, you're an addict. Let's just get that straight. Just accept it and move on. And that if you are eating tons of chocolate, you're copper toxic, guaranteed. So we take out super high copper sources like that. And then we get the liver working better, because why would high amount of copper levels be in the liver? Because your liver has a ton of it stored, and you're trying to get rid of it through the bile, and you have cholestasis, leaky toxic bile going into your blood. And that's how the copper gets there. So as we seal up the cholestasis, we have less copper in the blood, and we have less symptoms of copper toxicity. So it's all the things we do. It's all the same things we do. Some people do really need to go on a lower copper diet. They need to actively reduce the copper in their diet. But I'm warning you out there, folks, if you start trying to do like a really low vitamin A and a really low copper diet, you're going to run out of foods. One of the problems with the do-it-yourselfers out there, those of you out there who insist on doing it yourself, is you find too many things on the internet that you think you're supposed to do at once, and you do them all, and you run out of foods. because you can find a problem with any food out there. Oh, I have iron overload. Like they're going, well, I want a low vitamin A and a low copper diet. And if I try to do all this at once, then basically I'm left with beef and rice. And I don't want to, they read somewhere else on the internet, I don't want to do starches because I don't know, Ray Peat said that starches are bad. So now they're down to beef. And then they go, well, I have iron overload, so I can't eat beef. And then you're left with nothing to eat. The internet is a gigantic toilet of garbage information. What do? I sift through the garbage to find the diamonds. That's what I do. So you can try to go out and recreate all the stuff I've done. I'm going to tell you, it's probably going to take you a lot longer than it did me to figure it out. I was blessed. I was given this gift. So moving on. Spirit asks, how can you learn muscle testing? Muscle testing, I don't do what I call muscle testing. I do what's called biofeedback. It is based on something called a technique made by the guys in the gym movement group. I will be making a product, an e-product, sometime soon. I'm teaching somebody I know how to do it right now at the gym. I will be doing a product on that soon. Does that substitute for actual lab testing? No. The lab testing keeps us honest. Because can people, with their desires and what they read and do all this stuff, can people corrupt themselves into thinking what they're doing is good for them? Absolutely. You can fool your body, right? We can all do that. So you can corrupt the testing. This is very, very important that other people don't address. It's amazing that I'm addressing something that other people kind of just ignore. I knew a guy, the guy who taught me biofeedback, he was totally addicted to spicy food. And he kept getting injured in his training. But he's doing the biofeedback and he goes, I feel great after spicy foods. And I'm like, dude, like I was watching him going, okay, you made a mistake. You corrupted your testing. I didn't tell him this. He corrupted his testing and now he gets injured all the time. It's not the testing. It's that he corrupted it because he decided that he liked what he felt. And maybe he read some research that says capsaicin is anti-inflammatory. Capsaicin is pro-inflammatory. That's why they use pepper spray. Give me a break. Spicy foods are bad for you. Nature is telling you don't eat these. Why do kids not like spicy food? Because they're in touch with their instincts. Spicy foods are nature telling you this is a poison. Pepper spray is telling you this is a poison. The burning in your mouth and the burning in your arse is telling you it's a poison. The fact you shouldn't touch your eyes after you cut peppers is telling you it's a poison. Like, how many different ways do we need to go over this? People can die from eating too much spicy food. The dose makes the poison. No, the poison makes the poison. The pharmaceutical industry loves the dose makes the poison and correlation is not causation. They've been doing this to hide how they've been poisoning you with these cliche little sayings. And some of you out there just keep repeating them and thinking that this somehow protects you. But you can drink so much water that you can kill yourself. Yeah, true. So if you don't drink water, you could also die. Okay. Well, is water essential? Yeah, we can figure that out. Is capsaicin essential? So here's the difference, right? We have lots of people not eating vitamin A. We have figured out that vitamin A is not a vitamin and we don't need any of it. Multiple people have gone down to next to zero on their serum retinol levels. And they're doing better than they ever have before. So we can establish that that's not a vitamin. Then if we can establish that vitamin A is a poison in large doses, if it's not a nutrient, if it's not essential, and it's toxic, It's a poison. Capsaicin, do we need it? No, it's not essential. At high doses, is it a poison? Yes. So therefore, is it only a poison? Yes. Do we need water to live? Yes. Can you overdo water? Yes. So therefore, you need to find the right amount for you. What's an easy way to do that? Well, you could use your thirst, and you could also use your pee color. You want it light yellow to yellow. You don't want it clear, and you don't want it dark and smelly. This is not hard. If you drink until your pee's clear every day, you're causing yourself to feel worse than you need to. You know that if a veterinarian sees an animal pee clear, you ever notice how animals pee pretty dark yellow, right? It's like yellow to darker yellow. Are animals defective? They don't know how much water they need, even if they have plenty of water around? If a vet sees an animal pee clear, they know that animal has a disease. And yet we have all these health experts telling you to drink water to make sure your pee is clear all day. We have been systematically fed bad information on purpose. There's lots of people out there with good intentions. They think they're giving good advice. They mean well, and they're hurting people. Sentient Now asks, a friend of mine has had COVID 4 times. Now his heart sometimes is racing super fast. His resting heart rate is sometimes over 100. What is causing this? He is leaking toxic bile into his bloodstream all day. He probably has vitamin A toxicity. He probably has copper toxicity. He probably has potassium deficiency, which is caused by vitamin A toxicity and copper toxicity. And they need help. They are super toxic in their liver. CUFID is a massive, prolonged bile dump. Bile dumps can cause more leaking of bile because the toxic bile, if you imagine the hot lava analogy, it eats more holes in the bile pathway and you leak more bile. Long CUFID is worsened bile leakage. That's it. So as people start to fix their bile pathway, over time, as they've gotten their liver less toxic and they've got their bile pathway fixed, they stop getting colds and flus eventually. I still had it. I had it once. Had even tested for the antibodies afterward, for whatever the antibodies mean, whatever that means. I did it so if I needed to have the antibodies as proof to try to travel or whatever, that's why I got that test. Do I believe it's what they say it is? No. Do I think virus theory as it stands is basically a hot dumpster fire of pseudoscience? Yes. So they are super toxic and they are super leaky in their bile pathway. They should get on the Love Your Liver program and probably work with me individually. So Lindy says, one of my teeth is suddenly sensitive to hot and cold. What can I do for this? Well, I'm not a dentist, and I'm not going to give individual advice here. But what do we know about, what have I seen help tooth sensitivity? What have I witnessed in my practice? Well, we have a video on this channel. This is the last question. I have a video on this channel. Vitamin A depletes vitamin K. This has been shown quite distinctively in animal studies. Vitamin A depletes vitamin K. Vitamin A has been shown to increase osteoporosis or bone loss. Well, what are teeth? They're basically like exposed bones. So if something damages the bones, it will likely make your teeth less bony, if you will, which would make them more sensitive because the nerves are getting more exposed. We can also see receding gums go along with vitamin. Oh, somebody's posted that paper before. about how vitamin A. Let's do this. Let me find this. Let me see. I'm searching retinoic and gingival or gingiva. There was, oh wait, was it, oh, what's the paper? There it is. I think it is here. So this is not the one that I want. Anyway, somebody posted, it was about the periodontal ligament, showing that vitamin A, as they applied vitamin A to it, it made the periodontal ligament formation worse. That periodontal ligament's what holds your tooth in. What have I used to help sensitive teeth and bleeding gums? I have used vitamin K2. It's worth a test. What do I do when I test people for this? If you are specifically concerned, if I was specifically concerned, so remember here, I am a doctor. If you are not a client of mine or a patient of mine, you are not my client or patient. So anything you take off of this podcast is simply information that you are deciding what to do with. I'm not telling you to do anything. Thorne makes a vitamin K2 drops, not the D3 K2 drops, not the ones with vitamin D in them. Thorne K2 drops. And I've had people apply that to their gums and their teeth directly. So you're going to swallow it, but you also get the local effect on the teeth and gums. So it's a bit stronger in that way because it doesn't have to go all the way through your body to get back up to the teeth. You get it right then, right there. Now, what we see on people who do the Love Your Liver program and work with me, especially when they get their minerals right, over time, as their bile becomes less toxic, and their bile is less toxic, so it ruins their gut biome less. You should know, all the people out there talking about vitamin K2, and you gotta eat all these vitamin K2 foods, and you gotta take all these vitamin K2 supplements. Your gut biome is supposed to make your vitamin K. Like, what do they do to make natto, right? That makes a lot of MK7, the vitamin K2 form. Well, they culture it, they ferment it. They use bacteria that produces the vitamin K2. Your gut bacteria are supposed to do that. If you have really toxic bile that is destroying the very bacteria that make your... Wait, so if I'm saying that vitamin A toxicity, and we see the research shows that vitamin A very distinctly lowered vitamin K2 levels in animals. The quote from the authors was, vitamin K can be used to induce a simple... Vitamin A can be used to induce a simple vitamin K deficiency in rats. Pretty straightforward, right? What do I say that vitamin is? I say it's toxic. I say it creates toxic bile. I say it creates cholestasis. And that the toxic bile is what damages the gut bacteria that would normally make your vitamin K in your body, and then you absorb it. So vitamin A is likely decreasing the vitamin K by causing toxic bile. We take out the vitamin A, eventually the gut biome can get back to normal, and then your body starts making vitamin K again, and people on the program over time, as they're doing the right things, they don't need the vitamin K anymore eventually. Seen it work? But if you have a deeper tooth issue, you're going to need to probably go see somebody. I mean, I'm not telling you not to go see a dentist about this. I'm saying if you need to go see a dentist about it, that's fine. Fixing really deep-seated teeth issues takes time. It takes time and focused work. And if you're already that far where you're sensitive to hot and cold and, all that stuff, there's probably diet stuff going on. There's definitely mineral stuff going on. And without a focused approach, you're going to be kind of on your own. I've helped a client. He was having tooth resorption issues. We stopped that. His dentist had never seen it before, but we stopped the process. Dentists of the past long past, used to be some of the best nutrition people around. But it seems that the pharmaceutical industry took over dentistry, and now dentists don't know their ass from a hole in the ground about food. Even my dad was a dentist, and he really just thought cavities were just linked to too much sugar and not brushing your teeth hard enough. And yet, he always told me I didn't brush my teeth correctly. And knock on wood, I've never had a single cavity. Maybe I naturally did something about nutrition as a youngster. Who knows? But yeah, dental stuff is a reflection of toxicity and deficiency. Vitamin K is a Band-Aid because the deeper root cause is your gut biome being inadequate in terms of making vitamin K because of toxic bile. Okay, so that's all I have for today, folks. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for joining us. I will see you all next week, same time, same place. Have a great weekend. Sorry I didn't get too many questions today, but I hope you enjoyed the estrogen and testosterone and vitamin A and copper, all those connections. Have a great weekend. Bye now.